On the night of December 30th, 2000, a home invasion turned into a brutal murder of the Miyazawa family. Countless pieces of evidence were left behind at the scene of the crime, leading police to believe it would be solved quickly. However, it still remains unsolved to this day. This is the Setagaya Murders. Welcome to Let's Be Briefed. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Sydney.
And this week we're talking about the Setagaya Murders in Japan, which the Japanese name is Setagaya Ika Satsugai Jiken. So, have you heard of this before? You said maybe?
I think I may have, but I
Yeah.
don't specifically remember.
Okay. Yeah, I know there was a podcast or an episode on stuff they don't want you to know, right? So you probably heard it on that one.
Probably.
Um, but yeah, this case is like super bizarre because there is like so much evidence left at the scene, but it's still somehow unsolved. And also, I do want to warn that this could be like pretty graphic. Like, I feel like maybe more graphic than other ones we've talked about. So just beware of that, I guess. So this happened in Setagaya Ward, which is southwest of Tokyo along the Tama River. And like a ward is basically like a borough, and like Setagaya is a huge area. The population there is around 1 million people. So it's kind of like a city on its own, or like a suburb, I guess, of Tokyo.
Okay.
And this takes place in Kamisoshigaya neighborhood in Setagaya, which this neighborhood like butts up to a park. And the neighborhood had originally 60 houses, but the city was buying the properties to renovate and expand the park. So, like, at this time, there were only 6 houses left. So it's kind of a secluded area. And 2 of them belonged to the Miyazawa family. So one of the houses was for the family of 4, who was 44-year-old Mikio, which is the husband, 41-year-old Yasuko, who is the wife, 8-year-old Nina, and 6-year-old Ray. So Mikio was a businessman for like an international branding company, and Yasuko did like a cram school like out of the house, I think, or out of the house next door. So she was like a teacher for that. So think of like tutoring services for like the SATs. Like it's a lot more in depth.
Okay.
And the other house that was owned by this family belonged to Haruko, which is Yasuko's mother. So like these 2 houses are right next to each other, but like the other 4 houses are kind of like spread out since like originally this area had 60 and most of them had been bought up and like demolished at this point. So they are pretty secluded, but usually it's a very quiet neighborhood. And then December 31st, 2000, at 10:40 a.m., Haruko calls the Miyazawa family and she can't get through to them. So she walks to their house and knocks on the door, and no one answers, so she unlocks the door and she goes in and discovers that they've all been murdered. So she calls the police, and like this is kind of the timeline that they decided like most likely happened. So between 11:30 and midnight, the killer entered through the second-story bathroom window, which was at the back of the house, like where the park butts up to it, so that's like really secluded. But like for the killer to have entered this bathroom window, he would have had to like climb a tree and then scale like a perimeter fence that was around the house and then stand on like a small fuse box that was like attached to the house. So it does seem kind of like far-fetched that someone was able to do that. And there's like a picture here for you if you want to look, but it is kind of like, I don't know. Some people are saying like that doesn't seem very doable, but like this person would have definitely had to be athletic and also like really skinny to fit through this bathroom window. And the police didn't find any fibers like on the window, like from the clothing, like when the person would have like gone in there. So like they had to be like really skinny then. And there were no footprints found on the bathtub either. So, like, this isn't proven that the killer entered this way. But when the police arrived there, like, they saw that window was open and there was, like, the mosquito screen that was on the ground. So, like, this is most likely the entry point, but they're not, like, super sure. And it could have been the exit, but there was no blood in there, so maybe he exited somehow somewhere else, but that's a
That's
little.
what I was going to ask. Could he have come in one way and exited that way?
Yeah. Um, since there was no blood, he probably didn't exit that way.
Okay.
But maybe could have just opened it like from the inside to make it look like that's where he came in from, like before he killed them.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, if he came in a different way, it would have probably been because a lot of the windows had bars on the windows, so he couldn't have gone in another window. And I I don't think they had a back door. I'm not sure, but like the only other way maybe that makes sense would be the front door. So the only way he would have gone in the front is if like they knew him and like let him in, which is a possibility, but and also
Yeah.
some people said that bathroom light was on, so it's kind of weird for him to pick there to go in too if the light was on. But I don't know. Somehow he entered the house, so either from there or the front door. And I guess everyone the like consensus is that he killed the little boy first. So he went to his room first, which was like next to the bathroom where they think he entered from, and he strangled the little boy, which is weird because he stabbed like everyone else. So it's weird he didn't stab the boy.
That is odd.
Yeah. Yeah, and police suspect that Mikio, the husband, he was on the first floor, like using the family computer at this time. Like they know that because of like how the computer logs the times and stuff. But they think he had heard something and he started to go up the stairs to the second floor, and that's where he was met by the killer. So he thinks like maybe he heard him strangle his son or something. And he like fought the killer a little bit, and the killer also was injured somehow. But the killer ended up stabbing Mikio with a sashimi knife, like in his skull, and the knife broke off. And like that's probably how he died. So he died at the bottom of the stairs on the first floor. So he didn't make it all the way up the stairs.
So
Yeah.
the strangulation happened first.
Yeah, that's what they say is
That's what
like the
they.
most likely.
Okay.
Because the little boy didn't have any blood on him at all. So if it was after like this fight with the dad, like the killer definitely got injured at some point. So like he
And
had
that
to
would
have.
probably have been quieter, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Because the little
So.
boy was asleep at this point, so
Oh.
it was like 11:30 p.m.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think everyone was asleep in the house except for Mikio at that point. So, but yeah, so um he kills the dad, somehow leaves him down on the first floor, and then he went to the attic, which is like they have like a third floor level, and that's where Yasuko and Nina were sleeping. So somehow he knew like they were up there, and he started stabbing them like in their sleep. And I'm sure it woke them up. But he had like the broken knife, so at some point he stopped and went to the kitchen to get like a kitchen knife to finish like killing them with it. So that's like crazy. And like while he was gone, like Yasuko and Nina were still alive, and she like helped to like climb her down the stairs and stuff to try and escape, but he found them like outside of Ray's room on the second floor and like killed them there.
Do they think that the killer was watching the family beforehand?
Yeah, they kind of do think it was someone familiar with them in some way, or at least had been watching because he knew, like it seemed like he went to the boys' room first, so he knew where that was, and that he went to the third floor to like stab them. Like he had to have known they were up there, so he was at least watching, if not knowing them. But yeah, and they found like Yaska with Nina under her, so she was trying to protect her. So it's and there's like a diagram for you where they found each person. But yeah, I mean, there are some disputes if Ray was killed first or last, but like I said, like there was no blood on him or anything, so I feel like he had to have been first, like before the dad. Um, so yeah, after the murders, this like gets weirder because the killer like stayed in the house after. He didn't leave right away. So he stayed for at least 2 hours, possibly up to 10 hours afterwards. And the first thing that he did, it seemed like he did some first aid on his hand where he was like cut, he was injured on his hand. So like he used gauze pads and he also used Yasko's sanitary pads to help with the bleeding, which I guess that's like common with some military branches to like help seep up like deep wounds. But like that could be important later because I think most guys wouldn't know to use that or like think about that. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. And the house was ransacked when the police arrived. So there were like files and paperwork like everywhere. There was some in the bathtub with like water in the tub. So like maybe they were trying to like destroy something, or like maybe they were looking for something specific. Like it's a little unclear. And he also went through Yasko's purse, but like all the bookcases were untouched. So like if he was looking for something, why didn't he like look in there? And they're not sure like if any important paperwork was missing because they're not really sure what they had like in the house. Um Also he ate four like little ice creams from the fridge and a melon,
What?
and he drank barley tea that they had. But they had like other drinks, like they had beer and like juices and stuff, and that was untouched. And he did take like 150,000 yen, which is like $1,000. But like there was definitely other money, and there were like bank books like in plain sight. So we're like if it was a robbery, like why didn't he take the rest of that? Like it doesn't really seem like a
Right. What would possess someone to do all of like what would the motive for all of this be?
right. Exactly. Yeah, they have no idea still. There's some theories we'll talk about, but yeah, and like bank books, I don't know if you like know what those are, but like in Japan, it's kind of like a debit card, but like in a checkbook form. Like you can put it into an ATM and like take out money from it, and it'll like add in the line like a checkbook would of like how much was taken out and stuff. So like he could have definitely taken those and gone to an ATM and taken out like all their money. So that's weird to leave that. He also used the bathroom and didn't flush, so the police had a stool sample of his. So that's bizarre. And also he used the family computer between 1:18 and 1:23 a.m. because it like logged the activity. And I guess somehow he created a folder on the computer, but I don't think it had anything in it. It wasn't titled anything. And he also went to a website for a local theater, which was listed under Mikio's favorites. So, like, the computer and keyboard were in Japanese. So, I mean, some people think it wasn't a Japanese person, but if he was using the computer, maybe he was familiar with it. But also, like, apparently they didn't find any fingerprints on the keyboard, but they did find fingerprints on the mouse. So, like, that kind of implies he didn't want to type anything or maybe didn't know how to like type on a Japanese keyboard.
Mm.
Yeah, and the computer was triggered again at like 10 a.m. So that like that's why they're not sure if he stayed like possibly up to like 10 hours. But they think maybe that was accidentally triggered by Haruko,